Hello and welcome. My name is Aaron Luking. I live in south central Illinois, agricultural zone 6, close to the start of agricultural zone 7. And if Frederick Dunn is watching this video and says he stole my intro, well, as best as I can. Yes, I did. And we are in swarm season. So this was shot earlier in the week. Obviously today was not the case. We had about 2.5 inches of rain as a cold front rolled through, dropped our temperatures down into the 60s. They're supposed to fall into the 40s by the weekend for our lows, which would be a nice change. It's been hot and humid here lately. But we're just looking at some swarm traps that had been set up. My father-in-law has some property that he owns and farms, and he's been generous enough to be able to let me set up some traps. So this one is about 30 minutes north of where I live, and so if you're wondering where that is in relation, those of you that watch Hanyak honeybees, I'm about an hour and a half southwest of him. Those of you that may have seen some videos that Lidl Bees put out in Mulkeytown, Illinois, I'm about an hour and 15 minutes north of him, so south central Illinois. And of course, this is one of the swarms. It's actually one of two that I was able to catch. Apologize for the video. I thought later in editing that I could just flip my video, but that does not appear to be the case. So this is a swarm that's been in about a week. My father-in-law, when they were starting to plant this, alerted me that, hey, there are bees going in and out of your box. So, of course, went up there to check, and look what we find. We find a colony beginning to establish. As you watch the bees going in and out, you'll see some of them are bringing in darker pollen, a little bit amounts, some of it light yellow pollen. So they're beginning to raise brood in this box. And of course, about a quarter of a mile to the east of here, there's a building that has had a swarm in it for a very long time. And this will be the second swarm that I've caught since the beginning of May in this area. And I'll take these girls down and trade out boxes and hope that I can catch a third. But you may notice some different things. This is an east-facing forest field, so nice afternoon shade currently. And for me, we'll talk a little bit about this throughout this. I use a standard 10-frame Langstroth box, and I'm changing my bottom boards, but I find that it's just a whole lot easier. It makes a nice size swarm box, and I just put drawn comb in it. I don't use anything special. I use Swarm Commander and just follow the directions on the bottle. 2 squirts on the lid, 1 squirt on the landing board. And it's resulted in 2 swarms as of late. We're looking at the 3rd swarm. This is on a property that my father-in-law uses for cattle, so it's a pasture. This is a south-facing box, and you notice it's very different than the previous box that we looked at because it is not off the ground. It's about 3 foot high, just barely kind of above the grasses. And same thing, this is a 10-frame Langstroth with some old drawn comb in it. And of course, you'll notice the difference in bottom boards. This is a standard Langstroth bottom board that's used with this, just an older box. And very nice. Wasn't sure, nice swarm that moved in. Wasn't sure if we'd catch anything in this area. But yeah, that box had been only up about a week. And why there it had a swarm that had flown into it. Not sure from where. But the clover is in the middle of its bloom. And that can be a nice attraction because it's in the pasture. Also, around us, the wild honeysuckle is starting to bloom. You can smell it in the air. It's also a nice source of pollen and nectar for these bees. And so if you watch the girls on the landing board, you'll notice that they're bringing in pollen as well. So they're raising brood. So both of these swarms I've got to be able to move out. And I find that this type of a setup is just simpler for me. Come back in the evening, plug the entrance, and then all I have to do is take the box and everything with it, drop it in the apiary, and if I want to super it, it's ready to go. But so far for this year, we are 3 for 3. So we've caught, out of the 3 boxes that I've had up, we've caught 3 swarms. And so I'll hope to replace these this coming weekend as the temperatures get cooler in our area. And so from this point on, you'll notice that I've been changing bottom boards. So I'm trying to phase out the old Langstroth's bottom boards, and I've just gone to a very simpler one. It's 3/8 of an inch tall, 6 inches long, used on a circular saw, so it just follows the kerf of the saw, and it slants up and in, so the bees you can see, easily hit the landing board, just walk, and they walk up into the hive, and it keeps a lot of rain from draining backwards into it because it's elevated. And of course, we talked about 3 swarms. This was the first swarm of the season about 3 weeks ago, so about the 10th of May, and maybe around the 7th of May. And they've landed here in the apiary. They were a smaller swarm, but you'll notice they're making it their home. Frederick Dunn has a nice saying that if you can count 10 bees bringing in pollen within a minute, why, they're creating a nice colony there. And so if you notice this video of the landing board, that's what these girls are doing from a nice swarm catch. And so this is a setup that I use. Not everybody uses it, but I thought nice review of where we're at in swarm season. We have about another month to go, and look forward to seeing if we can pull out 5 swarms this season instead of just 2 or 3. Anyway, that's what's happening here in South Central Illinois, and thanks for watching.